What's up, guys? My name is Richard. Today we're talking about thinking long term and why thinking short term will destroy your gains. So if you look at my profit and loss here, I'm at a 12 to 13 ETH profit on my open positions. Still trying to turn these positions around, but if you include the closed positions, the net profit is 7.78. Combining the two is roughly sitting on 20 ETH worth of profit right now. So even though I've made some bad plays recently, here you can see minus 1.9 ETH, then I'm rebalancing a bit. You can see a lot of negative ETH price movement, and hopefully this will turn around eventually. But this is a very high risk play. I knew what I was getting into, but if you look at my longer term investments, they're doing quite well, and hopefully I will share a few tips that have helped me in the past, and hopefully they help you as well when it comes to thinking long term and yield farming over a longer time period. Just a quick example here. You can see this position has been in range for 150 days, so a decent chunk of time, and right now it's one of my most profitable positions. And it's really nice to see all these green numbers, right? I'm finally turning a profit. It's not losing any value, but it's not gonna just go up in a straight line, right? That's the first thing I want to talk about. A lot of times when you're providing liquidity, if you didn't get a perfect entry, and oftentimes you won't, you will be sitting in unrealized loss for a long time. Just an example here, this is Arrow and ETH. If you look at the divergence loss in terms of ETH, you can see it recently just flipped positive, very little Ethereum divergence loss because I entered roughly at this price. 0.00034 here. I've been in range for roughly 80 days, and this position is starting to turn around in profit right now. So roughly sitting on 7.65% ROI on my initial investment. And if we look back here, you can see I deposited here roughly in February 4th, and it actually trended down quite a bit when I deposited. So I was sitting at a pretty deep unrealized loss in terms of Ethereum until the pool turned back around. If I look at this Arrow and ETH chart here, this is precisely what happened. I entered back here in February. It trended down against my entry, and now it has recovered above my entry very slightly. So I didn't get the perfect entry on this one, far from it. But that's the reality of altcoin investing, liquidity pool yield farming. If you're in unrealized loss and you believe the token is going to recover, then it makes sense to stay in the pool and stay invested. And there is a lot of the pain in this process, especially if all of your pools are in a loss, right? Then it's going to be very painful on the drawdown, but you gotta be able to kind of withstand that pain and hold through that drawdown in order to be at a net profit later on. This is especially true for a low cap token. For example, this basis for everyone token that I'm still trying to wait for a recovery. I started out with like 5.5 ETH. The current profit and loss is roughly like 2.5 Ethereum loss. So pretty big loss on this one. You could see my entry was way up here. I started with a full range liquidity, and after it trended down quite a bit, I decided to pull my full range to limit my downside. So out of that 5.5 ETH, I pulled out about 1.9 ETH, and the rest of the capital right now is sitting on a one-sided liquidity pool. And the goal here is to wait for it to recover before I decide if I want to exit this position, or it's just gonna keep trending to zero. Nobody really knows, but I'm still sticking with my plan, sticking with my thesis until proven that it's wrong. Just a quick profit and loss here, 1.92, I think, was what I pulled from the liquidity plus the current pool. So roughly 3.11 ETH left minus the 5.5 I started out with. So roughly down 2.38. Not too bad. It's balanced out by a lot of these other longer term plays. So that's the second part of it. You have to have conviction in the tokens you provide liquidity for. For example, Arrow and ETH, I was providing liquidity for, we saw a almost 42% drawdown in terms of Ethereum, which is quite big. And if you don't have conviction or any research or thought process behind the token, you're going to be way more likely to sell the bottom and then cry later when the price recovers. And the third thing when thinking long term is you want to make sure you're not chasing high APR by squeezing the range, right? So what I mean by squeezing the range is if we look at this Bonk and Ethereum pool that I am in, this pool I had really great entry in this case at 0.00006 and it's trading roughly at 0.00001 right now. And again, as long as it's above my entry, I would be in Ethereum profit. I could have squeezed the range too, right? I could have set my ranges to be very tight here and get like a crazy amount of APR. But you can see if you look at the price action, I would have been out of range pretty easily here and miss out on a lot of the upside. Or even worse, right? I could have, for example, entered way up here with the tight range, and then I have to withstand all of that drawdown on the way down because I would be fully converted to Bonk when it exit my positions down here, right? And from there, I would see my position decline by over 61% before, seeing the price recover. So I personally don't like to chase ranges. Like some people adjust their range based on the volatility of the market, right? When it's not very volatile, like back here, they squeeze the range to get the most out of it. But that's when there's increased risk and you miss a lot of the upside. And that's the nature of the market, right? Crypto is very volatile and a lot of the volatile periods come right after it's kind of cool off a bit. So don't chase APR. And the third tip that has helped me here is having a long-term plan. Your plan might be different from mine, but my current plan is basically to stack Ethereum and also sell some of these fees that I earn here into Bitcoin and basically build a big bag of Ethereum and Bitcoin over the long term. So long term could be like 5 to 10 years. For me, it could be 3 to 4 years for you or 20 years for you, right? 20, 30 years for you. It really depends on what you think long-term is. But in my opinion, when you're providing liquidity, you want to think in terms of at least 6 to 12 months rather than like, hey, I'm going to make this crazy APR in this 1 to 3 month time frame, because at that point, you're risking a lot of your capital. And if things go wrong, as it often does, you're going to be in a lot of pain and could actually make a lot of bad decisions. And if I stack Ethereum here, just an extreme example, right? If I double my Ethereum stack from 50 Ethereum to 100 Ethereum, I could essentially sell 50 of my Ethereum into stable coins or whatever. And the rest of the Ethereum is basically free at that point, right? So that's my strategy. I keep stacking Ethereum and Bitcoin. I keep lowering my cost basis for those tokens. And hopefully when the altcoin market recovers, especially Ethereum, that's when I will be shifting a lot of my Ethereum profit into stable coins and adjust my strategy from there. So that's the 4 tips that I have for you guys today. The first one is you gotta be willing to hold through the drawdown. Even for large cap tokens like Bonk, for example, we saw a 77% drawdown from all-time high in terms of Bonk to Ethereum. And number 2, you gotta have conviction in what you invest in, because if you don't have conviction and good research to back up that conviction, then a lot of times when these big drawdowns do happen, you will be selling your positions at a loss. The third thing here is I don't want to chase APR. I want to make sure that my price range that I set covers at least 6 to 12 months of price action. And it's gonna save you a lot of hassle too, right? If you're setting wide ranges, you rarely have to rebalance. And I just basically go in every month at the end of the month to claim my fees and then decide what I want to do with those fees. Rather than, some people rebalance all the time because they're setting like really tight ranges and then they get basically destroyed when the market draws down. And lastly, we want to have a longer term plan. I like to think in all time frames, right? Like 6 to 12 months, and then also like 3 to 4 years, 5 to 10 years. What are kind of like my plan for those time periods, and basically come up with plans to like stack the odds on my side to turn a net profit. So I hope that helps, guys. There are a lot of other videos on my channel about yield farming, how to use different tools, how to run simulations. They're all very important when it comes to yield farming, so be sure to check those out. And yield farming has pretty much been like the most profitable thing I've found in crypto, especially if you have more capital, right? Above 10,000, for example, or 30,000, then you're really making a lot of gains that would have an impact on your life. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you guys on the next one.